Earlier this year, there was a fear that drug companies were about to jack up the prices on a number of already expensive and very popular, very necessary medications. And Donald Trump actually declared victory, saying that he had spoken with them and he was gonna stop it from happening. Let's take a look at an announcement from the time.
You're gonna have some big news. I think we're gonna have some of the big drug companies in 2 weeks, and they're gonna announce, because of what we did, they're going to announce voluntary massive drops in prices. So that's great. That's going to be a fantastic thing. You know, we're working on some really great things, aren't we?
Yes, you see there, he's basically begging for praise, and he tweeted something similar, saying, just talked with Pfizer CEO and Secretary Azar on our drug pricing blueprint. Pfizer is rolling back price hikes so American patients don't pay more. We applaud Pfizer for this decision and hope other companies do the same. Great news for the American people. And as he was asking for credit in that video we showed you, he did get some credit. At the time, the Washington Post, in a piece republished by the Times, declared that Pfizer's July 10th announcement that it would hold off on already scheduled price hikes was a successful use of the bully pulpit for Trump and a relatively rapid concession by one of the country's largest companies. So they were gonna raise them. Trump stepped in, he's your defender, MAGA and all that, and they didn't do it until fast forward a couple of months, and now they're raising all the prices and hoping that you've forgotten about that. Pfizer announced actually last month that it'll be raising the prices of 41 drugs, 10% of its entire pharmaceutical portfolio. Those increases will go into effect in a little bit more than a month. Merck, which is another one of the companies that at the time was involved in these sorts of like PR moves that he had successfully stopped them. In its July 20th announcement of price cuts, said it would not increase the average net price of its entire portfolio of drugs by more than inflation annually. It dressed up the announcement by lowering the price of one particular hepatitis C treatment by 60% and 6 other drugs by 10%, which sounds great. But the sales of that first drug had fallen so low by the first quarter of this year that Merck listed the drug's US sales in its quarterly financial report as essentially zero. One industry analyst estimated that those drugs accounted for less than 0.1% of their $40 billion in annual sales, even at their old price. So that was, even at the time, people thankfully were noting that they're saying that they're lowering prices, but that's ridiculous. The moves that they're making are not significant. They are trying to trick you. And as we said, Pfizer has already announced now that they will in fact raise the prices. Merck is raising prices on popular drugs like Keytruda and its popular vaccines, Gardasil, MMR-II, I think that's 2 actually, and Pneumovax, which is I believe a flu vaccine. The cited cuts will fatten Merck's profits by about $357 million, or 15%.
All right,
so that's a fast little ride.
So, couple of things here. First of all, some of those drugs like Gardasil actually are really helpful. So bless their hearts for making them. So nobody's trying to stop that. That's a good thing. But can we be fair? So there's 2 different things here. One is what the drug companies are doing, and the other is what Trump promised. So on the Trump promise, even Tucker Carlson just said, it doesn't seem like he's keeping his promises. Whoa, okay. So to which I say, of course. The drug prices are gonna be really low now. And of course, it's to his advantage to not point out that Merck's cuts were essentially zero. It cost them almost nothing. Now, they're increasing prices by 15%. And so, of course, Trump didn't deliver. But this is why I told you, one of the top issues with Trump when he came in, I told you from day one, is his incompetence. So he huffs and he puffs. I don't mind using the bully pulpit. I think a progressive president should use the bully pulpit a lot. And I don't mind pushing people around. I'm not your average liberal, right? So, and in fact, I've given Trump credit when he's done that effectively. But that is really, really rare. Instead, he huffs and he puffs, and then he doesn't pay attention. He doesn't do any homework. He doesn't do any enforcement to make it come true. He just thinks if I tell them to do it, they'll do it. No, that's not how corporations work. Corporations must maximize profit. They're not gonna be like, well, we could raise it by 15% and make it extra $357 million. But on the other hand, we would be upsetting Donald Trump. I can see the board meeting now. Right?
They start crying from their laughter. They mop it up with $100 bills.
Yeah, that's right. Then like Annette falls from the ceiling and hundreds of dollars of bills start falling down, right? No, they got it. They must maximize profit. Of course, they don't care what Donald Trump thinks. Are you going to do anything about it? And the answer with Donald Trump is almost always no.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the drug companies, look, if you make a good drug and you make a good profit off it, bless your heart. That's not the problem. The problem is that they have captured the government. And in this case, it is absolutely bipartisan. Both under Bush and Obama, and now under Trump, they still run the place.
Yeah.
So they can increase prices all they like with no competition. And when I say no competition, in the case of drug companies, it is oftentimes literal. They have these patents that last forever. That's a little bit of a hyperbole, but not much. And in that time period between those presidents, they have continued to raise the number of years where they have a patent. A patent means you literally cannot compete with them. Okay, there's some logic for a patent that lasts a short period of time, but now it's an outrageously long period of time. And on top of that, how do you get prices down in a free market? Well, you have demand and supply, et cetera, and you negotiate. But one of the biggest purchasers of drugs is the United States government for Medicaid, Medicare, et cetera. And all three presidents have said, we will not negotiate. We'll just let the drug companies set any price they like. That's not the free market. That's the exact opposite of the free market. That's crony capitalism agreed to by Bush, Obama, and Trump. So Trump has done none of it. He promised that he would negotiate drug prices and immediately turned around and said, just kidding, they're some of my top donors and the top donors to the Republican Party, so I'm not gonna do any of that. Yeah. Of course, he didn't admit that, but the reality is his actions show that he didn't, and now your drug prices are gonna be higher because of money in politics. And so get all the money out, otherwise Pfizer and Merck rule us all.
Now, when Donald Trump was saying that he had stopped the drug companies from raising their prices, as we showed you, some of the analysts were looking at what drugs they said they were going to freeze them on. They said that's actually not significant. But there were other people at the time that were calling them out. One of them, Senator Elizabeth Warren, so she was doing some harsh questioning on this topic. Here's an excerpt from that.
The president said that in reaction to the release of the drug pricing blueprint, drug companies would be, quote, announcing voluntary massive drops in prices within 2 weeks. That was 2 weeks ago tomorrow. Now, the same day that the president made those statements, Senator Smith and I sent letters to the top 10 drug manufacturers to see how many had lowered prices in response to the blueprint. And all 10 of them have now responded. 0 out of 10 said that they had lowered any prices. 0 out of 10 gave any indication that they planned to do so. And in fact, 1 out of 10 said prices are going to go up later this year.
So it was pretty clear, even at the time, thankfully, because of the questioning of people like Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah. So look, there's a really good reason why Donald Trump gets the questions that he does on his outrageous lies, the Mueller investigation, the caravan, demagoguery, et cetera. But the Jim Acostas of the world, again, doing a good job, but should also press him on policy issues. You said drug prices were going to be lower. They're now increased. It's a super legitimate question. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. And you might think, well, what could you do about it? I mean, he put pressure on them, he yelled at them, he gave them some bad publicity, but that apparently didn't work. There are other people with other plans that I think actually could succeed. Right now, Bernie Sanders and Congressman Ro Khanna, they have a plan to try to get these drug prices down, and it's fairly simple. It compares the average price that people are paying for the drug in the US to 7 other countries. And if on average we're paying more here, then they lose that monopoly patent power that we've been talking about. So they can charge the higher prices if they want, but they're not going to keep hold of their patent if they do that.
Right, and I'll tell you, look, here's another thing they could do. So unlike the Republicans, we're not full of hot air. We give you actual constructive actions here, okay? The president could just say, I'm negotiating drug prices going forward, and I'm done with it, okay? And you know what? I want them to be half of what they are now for what Medicare and Medicaid is paying. Those prices will come way down. He could do that unilaterally. He could do it. He loves his executive orders. Why doesn't he do that? Because he doesn't serve you, he serves them. And here's another thing they could do. You know what? We're importing drugs from Canada now. They're the same drugs, same exact drugs, and they're much cheaper. Where now we're going to allow their import. What now? Okay, and a progressive president, by the way, will actually do that. If you elect a corporate Democrat, no promises, okay? And you elect a Republican, guaranteed that they will not do that. But you elect a progressive in 2020, your drug prices, I guarantee you, will be lower. Donald Trump is a notorious liar, and as usual, will do absolutely nothing for you.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.